Birmingham Open Final, the most unforgettable moment in tennis history. June 7, 2026. Center court at the Edgbaston Priory Club was supposed to witness history. And it did, just not the kind anyone had scripted. Thousands of fans had packed the stadium. Millions more were watching from their screens. Eala was one match away from her second WTA 125 championship title. The stage was perfectly set. The atmosphere was electric. Every condition pointed toward a legendary finish. What nobody could have predicted was that the most talked-about moment of the entire grass season would have absolutely nothing to do with tennis. The weight of everything to understand why this single afternoon shook the entire sporting world. You first need to feel the pressure that was already suffocating center court before anything unusual happened. Eala wasn't just playing a tennis match. She was fighting for her identity. A second WTA 125 trophy would represent a massive leap in her career trajectory and a defining moment for Philippine tennis on the global stage. Every Filipino fan in that stadium, every flag being waved in the stands, every chant echoing off the grass, it all carried the weight of something much larger than a single match. But the universe had placed an almost cruel obstacle in her path. Her opponent was Eala Bardanova. Not just a high-ranked professional, not just a dangerous grass court specialist. Eala was Alex's former doubles partner. 6 days before this final, they had stood side by side on this exact same grass, fighting together in a doubles match they ultimately lost. 6 days later, they were standing on opposite sides of the net, fighting against each other for a championship. The psychological complexity of that dynamic is almost impossible to overstate. When you spend hundreds of hours training alongside someone, you don't just learn their game. You learn their soul. Eala knew exactly which grip Alex used when she was defending under pressure. She knew how Alex's ball toss changed on critical break points. She knew where Alex's eyes moved a fraction of a second before a cross-court winner. She knew every subtle footwork pattern when Alex's legs were getting heavy late in a match. This wasn't just a tennis final. It was a psychological chess match played between two people who knew each other's deepest secrets. When the match nearly slipped away from the opening rally, the final delivered everything the crowd had come for. Vicious baseline exchanges, tactical shot-making, breathtaking defensive retrievals. The Philippine flags in the stands waved proudly as both players refused to give an inch. For nearly an hour, neither woman could find a decisive edge. Then, at 5-5 in the first set, Eala found her opening. She earned a crucial break point, seized it with cold efficiency, and served out the set 7-5. The stadium fell quiet. The flags stopped moving. The second set began, even worse for Alex. Eala broke her in the very first game. The Czech player's coach leaned forward in his seat, sensing the match was already over. The scoreboard told a brutal story. Down a set, down an early break, with the pressure of a championship trophy and an entire nation's hopes pressing down on her shoulders. If you've ever stood at a moment where everything is falling apart and you can feel the gap between you and failure closing by the second, then you know exactly what Eala was experiencing in that moment. The comeback, but Eala refused to fold. Trailing 0-2 in the second set, she made a decision that would define the entire match. She stopped playing carefully. She stopped playing safely. She started swinging with the kind of fearless, aggressive intent that separates champions from contenders. The crowd felt the shift immediately. She won 4 of the next 5 games in a stunning display of controlled aggression and pure mental willpower. The sound of her racket cutting through the Birmingham evening air grew sharper, more confident, more decisive. After 38 exhausting minutes, she closed out the second set 6-3. The match was heading to a deciding third set. And that final set was something else entirely. Her serve, long considered a vulnerability, frequently criticized by analysts, transformed into a weapon. She fought off double break points at 1-2. She overcame 0-30 deficits to break Eala's delivery. She moved ahead 4-2, and the Filipino crowd began to believe again. The chants of Laban echoed through the historic club grounds. Then Eala did what elite champions do. She refused to die. Down 3-5 and staring at defeat, the Czech player mounted a remarkable comeback of her own. leveling the decisive set at 5-5. The flags went quiet again. The anxiety returned, heavier than before. 6:15 p.m. The moment that stopped the world. The digital clock on the stadium scoreboard read exactly 6:15 p.m. Deciding set. 5-5. Championship on the line. Alex walked slowly to the baseline to serve. Thousands of spectators held their breath. She delivered a clean, aggressive first serve. Eala answered with a deep topspin return. What followed was a tense 12-shot baseline rally, every stroke carrying the weight of a trophy. Alex moved forward and made a bold approach to the net. Under enormous pressure, Eala attempted a desperate defensive lob. The yellow ball sailed high into the cool evening air and landed just beyond the baseline. Advantage Alex. Championship point approaching. The stadium barely breathed. And then, something vaulted over the security barrier. A man. Sprinting directly onto center court. Security personnel scrambled. Both players froze. The crowd went completely silent, collectively processing what their eyes were showing them in real time. He was fast. He weaved between the stunned players and around the umpire's chair with bizarre, almost athletic confidence. Reaching the center net, he stopped, turned to face the thousands of people watching him, and ripped off his bright orange shirt. Painted across his bare chest in large, messy black letters were 4 words. Alex, marry me. The silence before the storm. For one brief, surreal, completely disorienting moment, the entire stadium held its breath. You could hear the evening wind moving through the stands. The players were frozen. The umpire was frozen. 15,000 people were frozen, all of them trying to process the same impossible questions simultaneously. Did that just actually happen? Then the security team caught up with him. They tackled him onto the soft grass. And the moment his body hit the turf, something extraordinary happened. The tension didn't just break. It shattered. 15,000 people exhaled at exactly the same moment and erupted into the most chaotic, beautiful explosion of laughter, disbelief, and pure human joy that Edgbaston Priory Club had ever witnessed. 3 hours of suffocating anxiety, compressed into one collective release. A professional tennis final had just transformed, in the space of seconds, into the most surreal romantic comedy anyone had ever witnessed live. The human reaction. Look closely at the broadcast footage from that moment, and you'll see something remarkable on every single face on that court. Alex stood at the baseline, racket still slightly raised, her expression cycling through shock, confusion, and genuine, uncontrollable amusement. Across the net, Eala, her friend, her rival, her former partner, literally bent over at the waist, completely overwhelmed by laughter. She could not contain it. Nobody could. And then there's the umpire, a veteran official, a man known throughout the professional circuit for his stone-faced, unbreakable professionalism. A man who had maintained composure through rain delays, racket smashes, and heated player arguments for decades. He smiled. A huge, visible, completely genuine smile. Because some moments are simply bigger than professionalism. Some moments are just pure, unfiltered human comedy. The intruder was dragged through the player tunnel, still shouting declarations of love, while the stadium around him was somewhere between crying with laughter and trying to remember that there was still a championship match to finish. The internet exploded within minutes. It was everywhere. Grainy phone footage, multiple camera angles, crystal clear broadcast clips. Every version, every angle, every reaction shot spread across every social media platform on the planet simultaneously. People who had never watched a single tennis match in their lives were suddenly sharing this clip. Sports fans who couldn't name a single WTA player were suddenly invested in what happened next. The moment didn't just go viral within the tennis community. It broke through into mainstream global pop culture with the kind of speed that only genuinely unprecedented moments can generate. Veteran sports broadcasters were left speechless on live television. One commentator with 30 years of experience covering international sports stated plainly that he had seen everything: rain delays, furious arguments, broken rackets, crowd incidents, and had witnessed absolutely nothing like this in his entire career. The memes arrived almost immediately. as they always do when the internet witnesses something it cannot categorize. Images of the romantic intruder being escorted off the grass were edited into famous paintings and classic movie scenes. One viral post showed the security escort with a caption about realizing you rank somewhere very unfavorable on someone's restraining order list. Even the official tournament social media account leaned into it, posting a quiet photo of the empty court with a caption calling it the most unforgettable moment in the club's long history. One fan from Manila described perfectly what millions of people experienced simultaneously. Her entire family went from nervous silence to laughing uncontrollably on the floor in under 10 seconds flat. The internet had found its moment of the summer, and it belonged to Birmingham. The cold reset, but here is where the story shifts from extraordinary to genuinely remarkable. While the entire world was losing its mind online, Eala still had a championship match to finish. A normal person, even a professional athlete, would have needed significant time to process what had just happened. The adrenaline surge alone from witnessing an unexpected court invasion at the climax of a championship match would have taken most people completely out of their competitive mindset. Your hands shake. Your breathing goes shallow. Your focus fragments. Eala took 3 minutes. 3 minutes to transition from pure shock and genuine amusement back to a state of cold, ruthless competitive focus. She walked back to the baseline deliberately. She bounced the ball several times. She looked across the net at her opponent. She locked in. She blocked out the 15,000 people still buzzing with laughter. She blocked out the viral storm building across the internet. She blocked out the absurdity of everything that had just happened. She served out the final games with terrifying composure. Final score, 5-7, 6-3, 7-5. Eala, WTA 125 Birmingham Open champion. For the second time. The perfect response: champions win trophies. Legends win the moment. Within hours of lifting the silver championship trophy, Alex took to social media and delivered a caption that the entire internet immediately recognized as absolutely perfect. Said no to the proposal. Said yes to the trophy. Laban. 5 million likes in a matter of hours. A secondary wave of global reactions. News articles in languages she probably doesn't speak. A single sentence that somehow captured the humor, the resilience, the national pride, and the pure championship mentality of everything that day had represented. She hadn't just won the match. She had won the afternoon. She had won the internet. She had won the entire grass season's conversation in one fell swoop. What it all means here is the question that lingers long after the laughter fades and the memes stop circulating. If Eala can absorb that level of chaos, a mid-match marriage proposal on a championship point, broadcast live to millions, reset in 3 minutes, and close out the match with ice-cold composure, what exactly does she look like when the pressure is even higher? Grand Slam courts are louder. The stakes are heavier. The spotlight is blinding. The entire world watches, not just thousands of dedicated fans. But on June 7, 2026, in Birmingham, a young Filipino tennis player showed the world something that statistics and rankings simply cannot measure. She showed everyone watching exactly what she is made of when the universe decides to get creative. She handled the absurd with grace. She handled the pressure with grit. And she handled the moment with exactly the kind of wit and confidence that true champions are built from. The Birmingham Open final will be remembered for a long time. Not just for the tennis, though the tennis was exceptional, but for that one extraordinary, unscripted, impossibly chaotic moment when a championship match became something the entire world couldn't look away from. And somewhere, a man who sprinted shirtless onto a grass court in Birmingham will spend the rest of his life explaining that story at dinner parties. He didn't get the girl, but he did break the internet.